The Business of the Music Business with Erica von Kleist.
Welcome to this episode of The Business of the Music Business with yours truly, Erica von Kleist. This episode is called, What is a Musician? Dictionary.com says a musician is a person who plays a musical instrument, especially as a profession, or is musically trained. All of this is true, but what is a musician in the context of business? A professional musician usually falls within one or more of the following categories: freelancer, independent contractor, employee. Let's start with freelancer. A freelancer is someone who is self-employed. Someone who is self-employed usually works for different companies or individuals at different times rather than being employed by one company. They're their own boss, in other words. A self-employed freelance musician might piece together their income with regular gigs, some private teaching, and maybe out-of-town tours. Many musicians work as freelancers because it's the nature of the work that we do, and you can make a really good living doing this provided that you're organized and know how to manage your schedule and your money, which I explore in other videos. Most of my career, I've been a freelance musician, and I love it. I love freedom! But freedom comes with a price. You'll learn about this in my videos about money. The sister term to the word freelancer is independent contractor. An independent contractor is also a self-employed worker, but a more formal version of the word freelancer. There are workers who are doing a slightly more extended contract for someone, like say teaching piano lessons at a community center every Saturday for 3 months. Independent contractors may be asked to sign a contract that states that they are an independent contractor and that they won't hold that employer liable for health insurance benefits, liability, or taxes to be withheld. That contract might also state that that independent contractor is required to carry liability insurance or workers' comp. That sounds expensive. Workers' comp and liability coverage insures you in case something happens to you on the job. Some independent contractors either opt to pay for or are required to pay for it depending on the state they live in or the situation. Musicians are not generally required to carry this kind of insurance. However, you might be asked to sign a waiver or write a statement that absolves that employer from responsibility should something happen to you or your equipment while you're working for them. If the kid you're teaching spills soda on your keyboard and ruins it, you then can't hold the community center liable for damages. This is why musical instrument insurance is so important, because you can make a claim through them and most likely you'll be covered. All in all, an independent contractor is a freelancer, but potentially with a little bit more paperwork involved. In either situation, you'll most likely be asked to fill out what's called a W-9 form before starting your work. This is how employers keep track of your income and report it to the IRS. In any given calendar year, if you've been paid $600 or more from that employer, you'll receive a 1099 form from them in January that has a calculation of all the money you made from them that previous calendar year. When you get that 1099, you'll see that no taxes are taken out. But before you get excited, watch my video on taxes. Employee. Have you ever heard this from a beloved family member?
Oh, honey, I'm so happy you love music so much, but I just wish you'd go out and get a real job.
Thanks, Aunt Bertha, but music is a real job.
Oh, that's so cute, honey. I just want to make sure you can make money.
I actually support myself just fine as a musician.
Oh, honey, I know you can blow that saxophone, but I hope you just get it out of your system so you can go and get a real job.
Okay, first off, being a musician is a real job. Society just doesn't like to give artists credit despite the fact that the arts contributes over $700 billion a year to the US economy, accounting for over 4.3% of the GDP. And that doesn't include passive economic contributions or take into account how a good commercial jingle or well-designed packaging might tip someone over the edge to spending their money on something. The arts are everywhere. I digress, but here's the kicker. The employee is the most valued worker in today's society because banks generally only like to lend to people with steady income, or those people who have an employer or a real job. An employee is a person who works for a company and receives hourly wages or a salary, and they usually only work for one employer. However, in this day and age, more and more people are working multiple jobs and might have 2 or 3 employers to make ends meet because America? An example of being an employee in the music business is working for an artist management company or a college or a Broadway show. A company would hire you as an employee rather than as an independent contractor if you're engaging in frequent, regular, indefinite work for them. When you get that real job, you'll be asked to fill out what's called a W-4 form. When you get paid as an employee, you'll notice that taxes are taken out of your paycheck. Social Security, Medicare, state taxes, federal withholding. This sounds super lame, but if you're a freelancer or independent contractor, you're also responsible for paying these taxes. Some people like to see taxes taken out because then they're not surprised with a big $5,000 tax bill come April, which can happen when you're self-employed. Because I've been self-employed most of my career, I have to budget for a big tax bill in April because the work that I do is not taxed every time I get paid, unlike employees. There are some other benefits to being an employee. The company may have health, dental, and vision benefits. The company may also offer you stock shares that you can cash in when you retire. An employer often has it set up so that you can pay into a retirement account like a 401k or an IRA. 4, instead of that crazy tax bill in April, you may receive what's called a tax refund instead. But seriously, watch my video on taxes. Also, again, because you're an employee and receiving a steady habitual paycheck, banks will be more likely to lend to you because you're more of a sure bet than someone who is self-employed. Okay, now for some paperwork clarity. Someone who is self-employed, like a freelancer or independent contractor, will fill out a W-9 form for their employer, which will then be reported on the 1099 form they'll receive in January. Employees will fill out a W-4 form for their employer, which will be reported on the W-2 form they'll receive in January. Freelance, independent contractor, and employee. Understanding the differences, advantages, and disadvantages to these types of employment is crucial to the professional decisions you're going to make as a musician as you embark on your career. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Bomb with Erica von Kleist. If you have a question or want to write a note, visit me at ericavonkleist.com.